He was the man who had everything: money, power, a name that made boardrooms fall silent. Yet there he sat alone on a cold park bench, staring at the empty space beside him like it was a grave. When a small voice broke the silence and said, "Don't cry, miss. You can borrow my dad." He didn't know that those words would tear down the walls he had spent a lifetime building and rebuild him into someone entirely new. Stay with this story till the end, because what happens next will change how you see kindness, family, and the meaning of success forever. Chapter 1. The Park Bench Where Everything Sit. NGD Chapter 1. Hook. What kind of child offers her father to a stranger who is quietly falling apart? And why would the most powerful CEO in the city feel like the smallest person in the park at that exact moment? The park was unusually quiet for a Sunday afternoon. Autumn leaves clung to the trees like they were afraid to let go, and the sky hung low, heavy with unshed rain. Alexander Cole sat on a wooden bench near the pond, his expensive coat folded neatly beside him, his posture straight out of habit rather than comfort. People passed him without recognition, something he rarely experienced. But today he welcomed the anonymity. Today he needed to be invisible. Alexander was the CEO of Cole Global Industries, a name etched into skyscrapers and stock markets. He had employees who waited for his approval, journalists who chased his words, and investors who trusted him with billions. But none of that mattered as he stared at his reflection in the dark water. His eyes were hollow, red from hours of holding back tears he refused to let fall. Only days earlier, the final document had been signed, the confirmation that he could never have children. Years of delayed hope, postponed dreams, all buried under board meetings and mergers, had come crashing down at once. He had come to the park to escape the echoing silence of his penthouse, to escape the memory of a life he thought he would have later. Later never came. A small pair of pink sneakers stopped in front of him. Alexander didn't look up at first. He assumed it was another child being pulled along by a distracted parent. Then a gentle tug landed on his sleeve. "Miss," a soft voice said. He flinched. "Miss?" He looked down and saw a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with curly hair tied in uneven pigtails and eyes too kind for the world she lived in. She held a half-eaten ice cream cone in one hand and pointed at him with the other. "You're crying," she said matter-of-factly. Alexander quickly wiped his face, embarrassed. I'm fine," he replied, his voice betraying him. She shook her head, very seriously. "No, you're not. My dad cries like that when he thinks no one's looking." Before Alexander could respond, she smiled brightly and said the words that would echo in his heart for years to come. "Don't cry, miss. You can borrow my dad." Alexander let out a broken laugh, half sob, half disbelief. "Borrow your dad?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, he's very good at listening, and he tells jokes when people are sad. Sometimes bad jokes, but they still help." A man jogged over, slightly out of breath. "Emily, I told you not to wander off." He stopped short when he saw Alexander, instantly apologetic. "I'm so sorry. She has a habit of talking to everyone." "It's okay," Alexander said quietly, standing up. "She just surprised me." The man smiled warmly. "I'm Daniel, and this little therapist is my daughter, Emily." Emily beamed. "See? Told you. You can borrow him." Daniel chuckled, but his eyes softened when he looked at Alexander's face. "Rough day." Alexander hesitated. He wasn't used to honesty outside boardrooms. Yet something about this moment, this child, this park, this ordinary man, made lying feel impossible. "Rough life," he admitted. Daniel didn't pry. He simply gestured to the bench. "Mind if we sit?" They did. Emily happily swung her legs between them, humming to herself as if she had just fixed something broken in the world. Daniel talked about simple things: the park, his job as a schoolteacher, Emily's obsession with ice cream and pigeons. Alexander found himself listening, really listening, for the first time in years. The weight in his chest didn't disappear, but it loosened. When they finally stood to leave, Emily hugged Alexander without asking. "You look better now," she said. Alexander swallowed hard. "Thank you," he whispered. As they walked away, He realized something terrifying and beautiful all at once. He didn't want to return to his empty life anymore. Chapter 2, Borrowed Time. Borrowed FMLY Chapter 2 Hook. What happens when a man who never had time for family is suddenly invited into one, and must choose between the empire he built and the love he never thought he deserved? Alexander couldn't stop thinking about Emily's words. Borrow my dad. They replayed in his mind during meetings, during late-night emails, during the quiet hours when success felt like a punishment rather than a reward. Against his better judgment, he returned to the park the following Sunday, and the Sunday after that. Soon, borrowing turned into belonging. Daniel never treated Alexander like a CEO. He didn't ask for favors or advice. He treated him like a human being, someone allowed to be tired, confused, and unsure. Emily, on the other hand, adopted Alexander completely. She insisted he attend her school play. She made him draw pictures with her on the sidewalk. She told everyone he was her park friend who used to be sad. Alexander began to change. He laughed more. He left work earlier. He canceled meetings that no longer felt important. And for the first time, he felt the ache of something good growing inside him. Love, fragile and terrifying. Then life tested him. A major international deal threatened to collapse unless Alexander relocated overseas for several years. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, the kind he had always chased. The board expected him to accept. The world expected him to accept. But Emily had a recital. Daniel had a life rooted here. And Alexander realized that walking away would break something he couldn't repair. The night before the decision, Alexander sat alone again. But this time, not on a park bench. He sat at his desk, staring at two futures. One filled with money and praise. The other with bedtime stories and borrowed hugs. The next morning, he resigned as CEO. The news shocked the business world. Headlines screamed about madness and wasted potential. But Alexander felt lighter than he ever had. Months later, in that same park, Alexander knelt down as Emily ran toward him. "Guess what?" she shouted. "What?" he asked, smiling. "You don't have to borrow my dad anymore," she said. "He says you're already family." Daniel stood behind her, eyes shining. "We were wondering," he said carefully, "if you'd like to make it official. Emily needs a father figure. And we already love you." Alexander's vision blurred as he nodded, unable to speak. Years later, Alexander would tell this story not as a tale of loss, but of rescue. Not of success, but of meaning. He learned that sometimes, the smallest voices carry the greatest truths, and that family isn't always something you're born into. Sometimes, it's something a little girl offers you on a park bench when you need it most. Final message: success can build empires, but kindness builds homes. And sometimes, the love you think you missed your chance to have is simply waiting for you to sit down, listen, and accept it.